We delivered $804 million of EBITDA, and as we talked about several times in the quarters before, it's a really volatile environment that we're operating in, and then we need to focus on what is it that we can control. And in this quarter, we set another production record. We had our cost program that we launched a little bit more than a year ago, and we hit the target for the year end already now in third quarter. So we're increasing our target for that towards the end of the year. And I'm also pleased to see the commercial performance in the quarter, leading to a return on invested capital in the quarter of about 12% that we're really pleased to see.
That's great. What do you think when you have your conversations, Svein, with the investors that they're most focused on at the moment? Your so far successful cost-cutting program, or what you're doing on the sales front, or I say a third factor, the geopolitical factors?
Well, we're operating in a very global industry. The ag industry is very global. The fertilizer industry is very global. And with the ongoing geopolitical tensions, trade wars impacting product flows, and indeed farmer profitability. If you look at crop prices, they have decreased significantly over the year, and farmers across the world are facing narrower margins, but compensated by fairly high yields across the planet. But indeed, the situation for the farmers in many parts of the world is quite challenging at the moment.
Yeah, so where are we on the taxation front of Russian products as well? I berate European leaders on a regular basis for their hypocrisy about LNG imports into the bloc, which still remain a major source of income for the Russian regime as well. What about on the fertilizer front? Have the additional tariffs on that made a dent?
They have, but it will take some time. But I really appreciate that the European Union addressed this. They put new tariffs in place from July 1st, but obviously ahead of that, the Russian producers moved a lot of volume into Europe. So the sales volume into Europe in June of this year was of urea was a record. Then after the tariffs were put in place in July, it was at a very low level. So it remains to be seen how all this sorts out. But it's a key measure by the European unions to put this tariff in place, and also a very strong learning from what happened on the gas side in Europe when there was too high a dependency on Russia on that. So now safeguarding the market from shocks like this is important. They put in place a tariff. It's not at the highest level yet, but it will be if the Russians continue to send record volumes into Europe. And at the moment, we see a strong reduction.
The problem is, as well, as we all know, the Russians find other markets for their product as well. You know, in the case of oil, they find India, which is still dragging its heels on stopping production, even though we think there's been some movement there as well. So when the EU and others put higher tariffs and import duties on Russian product, do the Russians just divert it to other areas in the market in the world, globally, that then affect your competitive position?
They do. Russia is a food superpower, both on crops and also on fertilizer. And what we're seeing right now is that when there's less product going into Europe, it'll find its way to other parts of the world. That's natural. And honestly, I think it's important also for food security, given the importance of fertilizer. Half of the world's food production is due to fertilizers. But at the same time, there is a bit of a warning signal here as well on the dependency on certain countries for global food production. So that needs to be kept in mind as well. And we try to convey that message on what that could mean on future dependencies for countries as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting looking at the price of ammonia and urea, some of these key fertilizers as well. My read into you talked about higher fertilizer prices boosting your profitability and your margins. But actually, you also talked about the pressures that the farmers are under and how tough it is to make money out of the current situation as well. Are you creating more problems for your clients by having higher fertilizer prices?
Well, I think we need to take the messages from the farmers very seriously, and we work closely with the farmers. And Yara will only succeed if the farmers succeed as well. And they're conveying a very important message that they're under pressure, both from higher input costs, but also from more regulatory burdens. The role that they play for food security is essential, and we need to ensure that there are support mechanisms to help the farmers through this challenging time, so that we don't put the entire burden on the shoulder of the farmers. This is a key topic for policymakers and also for us as consumers, that we support our local food producers.
Very interesting looking at a headline that you made earlier in the year when you spoke, Svein, and that was that Middle East tensions could trigger food price shock, warns fertiliser boss. That was you they were talking about in the FT. Do you think actually that the lessening of some tensions in the Middle East, which has started and we hope for a lot more, actually will act as a positive catalyst on global food prices?
Yeah, I was concerned about that, given the importance of that region for global fertilizer production, and with the tensions that we saw, especially moving into the summer months, could have created significant bottlenecks, difficulties on product flow and so on. It didn't happen, and it didn't really have an impact on fertilizer prices at the moment. And now with the somewhat less tension in that part of the world, it didn't have an impact on the price in the first place. It doesn't have an impact right now, but still, it is something that we need to keep in mind, how fragile the whole system is for fertilizer production across the world.
They're giving me about 50 seconds left as well. Let me just ask you a little bit more about Yara International. Have you got the right portfolio? Where's the next acquisition?
Well, what we're doing right now is looking at how can we take the next steps on optimizing our production, and it's about diversifying our energy base. We have a big footprint in Europe. Europe is an important market for us. How do we support the market in light of very high energy prices? Well, we have the flexibility of moving part of the energy-intensive production to other parts of the world, the US in particular, in order to support our finished goods production. So the main activity that we have right now is looking at ammonia production, potentially making an equity investment in the US in order to produce ammonia to support our global footprint.